Hi, everyone that's joining us on YouTube. I'm kind of laughing because I've done this already, but I forgot to hit record. So I'm redoing this for you. There's one person I have in mind that I know watches. So thank you for joining us. Today we are doing white dogwood blossoms on a dark background. It's the Merced River on YUPO paper. This is what it's going to look like, sort of, when we're done. They're on a little branch going out over the river. This is a photo that I have here that I'm working from. So the first thing that I'm going to do is wet my paper and see how bad shape it's in, if it's going to take the water. And there's a lot of little splotches that it's not taking. So I'm going to add a little glue to this. And smooth that out. So there's glue all over the paper, and it's going to now stick to the YUPO paper. There's no dry spots that are resistant to the glue or the water. And also, and it'll turn out the paint, the watercolor paint. So I do see a lot of bubbles. I can't really help those. Oh, there, it's all smooth and it's all taking that. In order to make this background dark, I'm going to use a big squish of French ultramarine blue and burnt sienna and mix them together and try to cover this paper. I want to be careful that I don't get glue into my palette. So that's why I'm mixing this big puddle of this beautiful color. I just think that's so gorgeous. So now I'm going to very gently paint as much of this paint here onto this paper as I can. Get it as dark as I can. Oh, it does so many crazy things. Let's go back and forth with really long strokes. Trying to get this nice and dark. Try to get all that paint that I squished out onto this paper. That'll do. And I'm going to wipe up my palette because I don't want the glue from the paper to get into my palette, so I'll wipe that up. I can tilt this, get it to run a little bit, be all sort of smooth. And then once I like the pattern, I think it kind of looks like a river back there, then I can start to wipe out these flowers. What I'm going to do is take my pencil brush, clean water, and a paper towel. I'm going to dry my brush, pick where my flower is going to go. I'm going to focus on this flower here. It's not smack in the center. It's right about here. And I just wipe off just like a half a petal. And then dry my brush, rinse it, dry it, and then wipe again. That's wiping out the shape of these white flowers. Takes a little patience because the paint will flow back into the wiped out spot. This takes a lot of patience to wipe out the white flowers because all that paint flows back in. And once I get this shape fairly established, I can add my greens. A little bit more the wiping on this one. Eventually it dries enough and starts to stay. Lifting up nice and white. And then I'm going to put these green leaves in. So the way that I'm going to make my green is Bumblebee Yellow or Handsy Yellow Medium. Those are exactly the same color. I use Handsy Yellow Medium these days. And Antwerp. That's going to make that beautiful green leaf color. And when we put it on this dark blue, it's going to react with it. It's going to have some darker spots. So if I just put a little green down there. Two things are kind of happening. One is that I'm lifting up the indigo paint. I'm just going to call it the homemade indigo paint, the French and the burnt sienna. Trying to get the shape of these leaves. So I can either, I'm lifting, but I'm also charging, which means that this puddle has more water in it than the indigo paint. And when I put that on, it'll sort of push it out. Just kind of suggesting leaf shapes more than really an exact copy. So there's the first flower wiped out. So that's wiped, the first flower is wiped out and the set of leaves is in. Now I'm going to start working on this flower here, wiping it out. I do want it to sort of overlap those leaves there. It has a different shape. You can't see the center on this one. These petals are, these little flowers are kind of like hors d'oeuvres on a tray when the, you know, the waiter comes by at a fancy place where you're doing hors d'oeuvres while you're standing around and they have them all up on this little tray. I feel like the flowers are these little hors d'oeuvres, just so beautifully presented on a tray of little branches and leaves. I'm going to squeeze this one in here. So if you have 3, don't spread them all equal distance. They need to be different distances apart and not all in a straight line. I have to figure out where I want to put this third one. This leaf got up. This leaf went crazy over here. So 1, 2. So if I did them all equal distance apart, 1, 2, 3, it'd be right here. And I want it right there. I'm going to bring it down. Some of the petals on these are in shadow. The shadow is almost got a little violet tint to it. I don't think I'm going to add that. What I'd really like to do is just not wipe as much on the shadowy sides. Or maybe I just won't even worry about it at all. And just let the extra paint on the white be representing the shadow. I'm gonna make more yellow now and add some more leaves. Then there's, I have two things to do here at the end. One is to add the stems and the other is to add the center of that one flower. I'm going to use pure Hamza Yellow Medium for the center. This is pretty dry now. I do actually kind of see like a little wet spot there. It's gonna run if I do that. Ah. And the center is very low right here, and it's not round, it's foreshortened, so it's an oval. And it's right here. All I'm gonna do is just add that one little center. I do see some yellow like at the bottom of this and at the tip here maybe. That's about all I want to do. It's taking off and running. For the stems, I'm going to use pure burnt sienna. I just want to sort of attach them to each other, and so they're not floating out. Okay, there we go. There's some burnt sienna. So I don't like those yellow spots on this flower here. So I'm going to remove them. There's just the tiniest hint of it left. So I've got my brush loaded with the burnt sienna. I love how this one comes up, out, and goes up. It's like I said, it's like a little platter. And this one comes across, goes behind that leaf. And really kind of disappears behind that leaf too. And this third one up at the top, you can barely see the stem attaching it because it's small. It goes from right here to here. It's the little spot of it. And then there's these couple leaves up here that don't have a blossom, but they have a stem attaching them. And it's pretty messy. going to try to corral this yellow center. There is a leaf right the back side of the center that we can see, or below it, but it's the back side of a leaf that is sort of yellow-green. So I'm going to just sort of put some yellow-green right there and see what happens. Keep wiping out the paint that's flowing back into the petals until I get tired of it. And then I'm going to leave it alone. And right now I'm going to leave it alone.
It probably looked better if I took the blue tape off around it, but
Oh, yes.
it's not dry. So
Yeah, you did a good job. I like how the bottom one has the dark in the,
yeah,
that
so it's in shadow. I thought it might
shadow,
it's in shadow. And I put the brown tips on the flowers.
Mm-hmm.
I learned that from you at the Methodist church.
That's a while ago.
That's for sure.
Oh, it's beautiful. You have them more just looking at us rather than
It was a different
angle.
It was a different photo.
Oh, a different photo. Good. Yeah, and your leaves are beautiful. Yeah, beautiful. You know those are dogwood over the river. Beautiful.
Thank you. Wow, it's
Char, it's gorgeous. Your darks are so dark and they wiped up so clean.
If I try to hurry to finish it, I will mess things up. So I'm going to just stop here, have a cup of coffee, and then come back to it.
Oh, okay, very good. Well, thank you for joining us. It's such a fun, simple painting to do, especially when they turn out. Like YUPO does have a mind of its own, so you never quite know how it's going to turn out. But it's just really a joy to be able to lift on a paper and get back to those whites. It's a really nice way to paint. Thank you for joining me.